Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 65 of the MR Runningpains podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Saft, and today's episode is a little stray from my normal conversations. I hope that you'll give this one a chance and a listen, as it's more about voicing and having a voice and letting those that run our country and beyond know what you want. Whether you agree with those in office or not, your voice is super important. And that's what this episode is about. My guest, Dr. Stephanie Howe, she's an amazing ultra runner, mom. She does so much, and she's very humble about her results. She's, like I said, just an amazing runner and person. Stephanie and Canyon Woodward are my guests here, and we talk about an organization in which the three of us belong called Protect Our Winners, POW. And it's really just about making those aware of the climate change that we're seeing. Whether you believe in it or not, that's another topic. But this is just how we can reach out and make our voices heard, whether it's about our public lands or about climate change or whatever comes across. Canyon talks about the DOT locally, making a road and bridge that were going to really affect his community. These are all things that affect us, and in essence, this episode is just how we can get engaged, how we can get involved. So I really hope you'll give this episode a chance and a listen. Like I said, I know it's outside my norm, but these two join me in being trail runners and trying to create change that we hope will better the future of all of us. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. As always, feel free to reach out to any of us with questions and comments. We're here for that conversation. So thank you very much for giving this a chance. I'd like to welcome to the episode Dr. Stephanie Howe and Mr. Canyon Woodward. How are you guys today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing great.
We all have an affiliation with the organization POW, Protect Our Winners, and we're going to talk about POW and some of the things that we can all do as advocates. But Stephanie had some really good questions. I think we can start out. So, Stephanie, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself a little bit more and how you got involved in this?
Yeah, Stephanie Howe. I hail from Minnesota. That was I grew up in the Northland, we like to call it, and really loved having 4 seasons. So I grew up playing outside in the summer and skiing in the winters, and really shaped me into the adult that I am, who loves being outside and doing all the endurance sports, whether it be running, biking, skiing, paddling, just kind of anything outdoors is my favorite thing to do. And kind of fitting, I studied, I guess not outdoors, but I studied exercise science. I was also an athlete. And so it's kind of like all the things in my life align. I really like to move my body outside. I studied exercise physiology and nutrition and went on to earn a doctorate in nutrition. And it's been a really cool journey for me to blend these passions of my love for the outdoors and then helping people with nutrition and coaching to be able to enjoy recreating or competing in the outdoors. And then myself, also, I run at a competitive level in mostly trail and ultras. And I currently live in California. I was in Oregon for the last decade, but just moved down to the Bay Area in California. And I moved here right before the pandemic started. So still learning the area, but I really got involved with Protect Our Winters in 2016. I think the election just woke me up. I had always been really conscious of, talking about climate and doing things in my local community, doing volunteer work, doing trail work, restoration projects. But it just felt like that impact was so minimal in the grand scheme of like this issue we're facing. And so when the election results came out, I was just in shock and in mourning and just was like, Stephanie, you need to do something. You need to use your platform that you have to actually make action happen, because I feel like I was saying a lot, but not really doing a lot. So I connected with Jake at Protect Our Winters, and he was just like, kind of took me under his wing. He was like, okay, these are the things we can do. These are the big things we need to put into place to actually protect our earth and prevent it from going into this downward slide that it felt like we were on. And since then, I've really just kind of poured myself into it because it feels really good, because ultimately I love the outdoors. I have a baby now. He's 4.5 months old. And I just think about him and like wanting him to be able to enjoy these places too, or have a habitable earth. Like, we're not just talking about, being able to run in the mountains and, see all these beautiful sights, but actually having an earth we can live on. So that's kind of the quick fast forward story of how I got involved, but it's so meaningful to me.
Absolutely. And Canyon, how about yourself?
Oh, that was awesome to hear, Stephanie. Thanks for sharing all that. And congrats on being a new mama. Happy belated Mother's Day.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, I have siblings named Rivers, Force, and Autumn. So pretty similar story you could guess of just being outdoors all the time growing up. Lots of whitewater paddling here in the mountains. I was born in Franklin, west of Asheville in the North Carolina mountains here, and just spent my whole childhood playing outside, doing backpacking trips and paddling trips with the family and the siblings, and just absolutely love these mountains. And that's what first drew me into getting involved with some environmental work and wanting to protect them. And I think my first so to fast forward a little bit, I'm real involved with electoral politics now. I'm a campaign manager and have worked on a bunch of campaigns, but I grew up just absolutely being repulsed by electoral politics, which I think is the experience of a lot of us, unfortunately, because there's so much to hate about our political system and the state of politics in this country. So I was pretty uninterested growing up. I went off to Harvard for college, and folks were like, "Oh, you're gonna end up in politics," and I was like, "The heck I am! That is the last place you'll find me." And I think some of that was colored by my first real up close and personal run-in with politics was in my community in high school. There was this project that the Department of Transportation was trying to ram through our community. It wasn't any kind of earth-shattering battle of morals or justice. It was just this beautiful old historic one-lane truss bridge that had a history going back to the 40s in our community, and they wanted to take it out and replace it with this slab of concrete. And anyway, long story short, the community was up in arms. They had a public hearing in the basement of the Baptist church at the end of the road, and the community just packed the place wall to wall. I've never seen so many folks in our community in one place before, and for 3 hours, just one after another, got up and laid it on the DOT folks who were in the room. And at the end, this county commissioner stood up at the front. He was like, I've just been here listening to you all tonight, and I just want to say that this is democracy in action. This project is not going through. and he got this huge standing ovation from all of us. And then one of my friends was walking home afterwards and passed him in the parking lot, talking with the DOT folks from Raleigh, and they were talking about how the money for this project and others wasn't going to come through in the future if he didn't get in line on the project, and he ended up voting in favor of that bridge going through, and that just put a really, really foul taste in my mouth of just like it being corrupt and dirty, and these sort of backhanded dealings of folks saying one thing and then doing the other. And so that pushed me even further away from politics. And then I got really involved with climate activism in college around the Keystone Pipeline, especially. And I think through the climate work, I just realized that like one of our big goals was to create political change and to get policies passed that will give my generation a shot at having a livable future. And nothing was happening. There's no bold climate legislation getting passed. And so I kind of came to the point of realizing that we can do all we want on the outside, but if we don't kind of hold our noses and wade into the muck of this political system that we've got, nothing's going to change. And so, yeah, so I've jumped headfirst into this swamp to try and work on making it a better place and working on making what change we can.
I really think that's a good point that you just really described, Canyon, is a lot of people who love the outdoors and just want to, enjoy our places and not get into politics. It's like, we can't just ignore that. You have to get in there because we know that that's where change happens. And I think so many of us are scared to, or just, have this idea that we can't or we shouldn't, or I don't understand politics. I don't know how it works. So I'm just going to stay away. And I think we need more people like you who are, willing to jump into the swamp, as you said, and really, make changes from the inside out. And I think that's how it's going to happen. And when I think about like, okay, who do we want in charge? Well, I want people who are like-minded. I want people who put like environmental justice, racial justice, social economic justice first. And those are all connected. It's making the world a better place for all of us, covers all of those areas. And so I really encourage people, and I'm saying this to myself too, because I'm not currently involved in politics, but to just, think about your communities and how you can get involved and run for office.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Canyon. That was
totally. And piggybacking off of that, like I think about it like kind of like running in the sense of, in our training, if we keep on doing the same thing, we plateau and, we don't really get anywhere. So we're always trying to push ourselves a little bit out of our comfort zones in order to make progress. And I think we have to do the same thing politically and on issues that we care about. And so if that, if that looks like running for office for you, that's fantastic. Like we really need more people who are in it for the right reasons to run for office at every level. If that looks like registering to vote and voting for the first time, then great, start there, and just kind of let it build one step at a time for, whatever feels right for your starting point, I think is really important.
Right on. Stephanie, you had a really good question that you had emailed me, and you kind of touched on, or you're asking to touch on what Canyon was just talking about and how we can, further the or strengthen the relationship between running and politics. Mm-hmm. Between advocacy and organizing and community involvement. Do you guys want to talk a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, just a general context. I think people are more aware now of the impact, the connection between the two of enjoying the outdoor space and the policy or the people in office. And I think that's something that hasn't always been true. I remember like several years ago, maybe just like 3-4 years ago, I had a friend who it's just like something came out in the news and she was really like upset about it. She's like, I'm just going to go run out and go for a long trail run because they can't take that away from me. And I was like, yes, they can. And they are. And I think just bringing those two together, like not having that disconnect of like, we're in this like crazy, the news and like bombarded with all these things happening. And then you can go off in your own world and just forget it all. We take that for granted. And I think being able to enjoy and recreate in the outdoors, you have to connect that back to policy. And that's part of my goal with being involved with Protect Our Winters is helping people bridge that gap, because you can, we don't always know a lot about what we need to do or how we can help, but just showing people that these action steps that you take can help put people into office or create policies that are going to be protective for the earth. And although it's nice to do things on a micro level in your day-to-day life, like recycle and drive less and reuse things, those don't add up as much as like divesting or, putting into play or voting someone in who's going to elevate climate to the top of their list of priorities. So for me, the two are so connected. And I think every runner, they should be connected. Everyone who loves the outdoors, because the outdoors and the earth that we have, it's a privilege and it can be taken away from us by the actions that we choose or choose not to do. I don't know if that quite answered your question, but that's how I see the two linked together.
Absolutely. And can you just touch on a little bit more of divesting? Just, expound on what you mean by that and what people can do to divest.
Yeah, I actually should shoot that over to Canyon because he's had a lot of experience with that. But for me personally, I know I was banking with, maybe the one of the worst, Wells Fargo. And I changed over where I was putting my money basically to Bank of the West, because they are not investing in any fossil fuels companies that are, in charge of fossil fuels or carbon, like large carbon emitters. And by doing that, you're preventing those companies from getting loans from these banks. You're not giving your money to those companies. So that was a big, for me, aha moment of like, wow, I can just simply change where I'm banking and that's going to make an impact. But Canyon has a firsthand experience with this.
Yeah. Let's see. So in college, getting active around fossil fuel divestment was one of the big avenues for me into organizing and political work. I think it came out of, we as students, we got to campus and there were plaques in the shower being like, take shorter showers, save water. And there were like energy audits on how long the lights are staying on in the rooms, and little single stream recycling bins. And, all that stuff it's not to say that you shouldn't focus on cutting down your own personal footprint. You absolutely should. That's important, but that's really in my mind, that's a much less important side of the equation. That's kind of a misdirection of like the fossil fuel industry and big corporations that want business to continue on as usual, is shifting the burden of guilt onto us and saying, you have to be the ones to cut down, and that's what's going to get us where we need to go. And in reality, the problems that we face are so much more systemic than they are like personal and individual. Obviously those things are connected, but we can make all of the individual personal change we can imagine, and it's not going to be enough without big systemic change in the face of systemic crises like climate change. And so confronting that reality, divestment was one of the big tactics that I think Bill McKibben, a great author and environmentalist, kind of spearheaded. And at Harvard, one of my best friends, Chloe Maxman, who's now the youngest woman state senator ever elected in Maine. Yeah, she co-founded the fossil fuel divestment movement there, and the idea there was just pressure Harvard to take its $40+ billion out of fossil fuel investments and to reinvest them in the community and in things that aren't actively destroying the world. With the thinking being that will help spur some of the cultural and political change and put a stigma on these companies and push them towards some action. And it's really worked in a lot of ways. There's now big activism around the banks, like Stephanie was alluding to, and you see big coal projects and tar sands projects being proposed that are having trouble getting loans now. They can't find a bank that'll fund those things because of that activism. So that's a big success story, I think. And there's still a lot more to do.
Success story. Yeah. I personally think that's one of the number one action steps people can take right now that have very few consequences. I'm not going to say like it's easy to change banks, but it's like that's all you have to do, you know? And even if that's too big of a step, just looking at your investments or your portfolio and just meeting with your banker and just saying like, hey, I don't want my money going to support fossil fuels or carbon dependent businesses. And I mean, just by the numbers, you know, if more people do that, like the harder and harder it's going to be for these companies to get loans. So it seems to me just like a really easy action step that might be good for someone who's not quite sure how to get involved or how to do more right now.
Totally. And I'd really emphasize there the collective action is what makes these things so powerful. So do what you can to, you know, link up, whether it's friends and family or whether it's joining an organization locally or nationally. There's a great group of organizations, kind of a coalition called Stop the Money Pipeline that's working on this stuff. Think about if your church or your city or your university can be pushed to take action. See what Sunrise and POW and all of these other organizations are doing locally in your area, and get involved with other folks because that's so much of the beauty for it for me too is doing this in community with others, and that's where I get a lot of the resolve to keep on doing it year in and year out and avoid burning out.
That's awesome. Thank you for going through all of that. On a simplistic level, how would someone find out if they are supporting such an institution that isn't as, you know, environmentally minded as you want to align with?
So, I mean, personally, I just do research on my own. I mean, there's like several websites out there that, rate companies or just like, you know, you can find out about them, or like supporting B Corp companies that put the environment first. I know there's a lot of resources on Protect Our Winters website too, especially having to do with the banks and supporting, fossil fuels, or supporting businesses that use or promote fossil fuels. But and Canyon, you might know better than I do, but I just personally do my own research on this. And because it is such an important issue to me, and it's not like it takes like days and days of research. It's like, you know, if I have choice A or B, it might not matter that much to me. But if choice A is a B Corp company, which means they're going to be really conscious about how they produce their, how they make their products and how they, you know, treat their employees and, how they give back to the earth, I'm going to choose that because I know that they're doing things that are going to make ultimately a better choice for protecting our earth.
Do you have any other ideas, Canyon?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great place to start. Again, like Stop the Money Pipeline and Divest Ed are a couple of good resources, particularly in the in that sort of more finance and business realm. But yeah, I think what Stephanie said is a great avenue.
And also just looking at like within your local community first. I mean, it's not smaller local businesses don't always fall under that umbrella, but most of the time they do, and they don't have the resources to be like those big companies are. And I think even if it's not just a purely environmental choice, supporting local businesses is just good for your community, and having a really healthy community where, you support each other is going to build this kind of like-minded attitude. And you're going to be able to feel connected and able to come together for things like, protesting when the local bridge is going to be taken down and concrete slab put up, or, just when you have those things that you want to work together, when you're able to support each other and support small businesses, I think that usually is a better place to start, because, they tend to be more grassroots or smaller and sourcing locally rather than, getting everything from China and then distributing like all over the globe.
Right on. Well, Stephanie, you started out by talking about our previous administration, and that's kind of what got you engaged in this. If we look at the new current administration, are you seeing some positive trends or anything that, still throws up a red flag that you would say this is something maybe we should, focus our energies on? This goes to you too, Canyon.
I mean, to me, it's a lot more positive, just in so many ways that we don't need to go into. But I think there's a lot of work to be done, right? So we got through the election, and it's like, whew, we got through the election, but now the work starts. Now we have to put these things into place that we've been talking about and hoping for. And we kind of have to see with the infrastructure package, how that all plays out and what's really going to happen. And I think there's great pieces in place, but they just need to be put into action. So it's yet to be seen, how it's actually going to play out. So we're not like out of the woods, or we're not like, figuring it out and just kind of going through it seamlessly. Now, if like any time is the time for us to really like mobilize our troops and like, get together and like really promote these things that are important to us. And I know, getting back into the Paris Accord, that's a huge step, right? We're just saying on a global level, like, yeah, this is important to us. We're going to rejoin this and hopefully make climate one of our top issues again. But I don't think it's going to be just, easy and now we're like over the hump.
Yeah, totally echo all of that. I mean, I was certainly not a big riding with Biden guy, but I've definitely been pleasantly surprised by the way that he's been prioritizing climate in his first 100+ days in office, and baking that into the infrastructure bill in a big way is super encouraging. And I think what I keep coming back to is there's a tendency in our country, I think, to vote, to see an election through and call it good, kind of check out for the next 2 years or even the next 4 years. And, I think what we've seen really powerfully in recent years is that public pressure really works. And this is definitely not the time to let up. We've finally got a national government that is equipped to make some change if we continue laying on the pressure. So this is this isn't the time to to kick our feet up. This is the time to really ramp up the pressure to make sure that that we're able to take advantage of the opportunity that we have right now. And then I'd also point a big finger also down the ticket towards, state level government. Growing up, I had no idea what a state representative is, a state senator. It's all about the president and the Senate and everything. And obviously, the federal legislation is huge, but there's so much that happens at the state level. So state senators and state representatives generally are elected every 2 years, and they draw the maps that, like in North Carolina, for example, result in us having ridiculously gerrymandered districts where we, elected a Democrat statewide for governor, but then we have won 3 or 4 out of 14 seats statewide or something like that in Congress. So they have huge power there with drawing the lines, and then huge power on just local issues, from policing in communities to local infrastructure and environmental regulation at the state level. And there's so much money poured into state level politics by big oil, big corporations, for a reason, because they have tremendous power in rolling back regulations and creating all kinds of chaos at the local level that just completely gets brushed under the rug because it's not really covered in the media in a big way, and people aren't as checked into local politics. So just a big plug to, if you're not so checked into what's happening at the local and state level, to do some research there and be active at that level, because there's a lot that happens there.
Yeah, I think know your representatives and know what's going on in your state, because those things are going to immediately affect you. And although we tend to focus on the national level, like that is important, but what's happening in your community, in your state, in your city, in your county, those things are really you're going to feel those effects. And so I think that's a great place to start, and just learn more about your area and who represents you. And remember, they're representing you. And you're voting these people in, and they want to please their constituents. So calling, have them on speed dial or saved in your phone, so you can just jump on the phone. And I know it can be intimidating, but it takes 5 minutes to be like, hey, I'm one of your constituents. I'm in your area, and this is what I think about this bill, or, I want you to support this. And they keep track of that because they want to please the people that they represent. So that is a great way to kind of take that step from knowing about your local government and actually impacting it. And they're going to be different all over the country. Like Aaron and I talked about earlier, in North Carolina, forest and forest management, that's a big thing. Whereas maybe in California, where I live, wildfire is a big thing, and keeping the land fire safe. And it's going to be different all over the country, depending on where you live. But getting involved in that, and at least feeling like you're able to say what you think, it makes a big difference, and it feels really good.
Yeah, and especially at the state level, folks do listen. So I think that's a really important point. Seeing Chloe in office up in Maine, she hears so much from her constituents, and I think she's maybe uniquely responsive, but yeah, like Stephanie said, their job is to represent you, and public pressure really does work at that level. So yeah, that's just a big retweet to what Stephanie said.
And I mean, as simple as this is, some folks may not know where to find contact information. Are we, just sending them to the state, government page or local government page? Are their numbers going to be there? Emails, contact? Is that where we're sending folks?
That's a good place to go. They're also on the Protect Our Winters website. I would have to go back. We can find the link and maybe you can put it in your show notes. But to find, it'll connect you to but just by putting your zip code, who are your local representatives. And they usually have an email and a phone number. And from what I understand, it's always best to call because someone is going to answer the phone or an answering machine is going to answer that and they're going to tally. They're going to keep track of what people want, what people say. Whereas emails, I think, you sometimes don't get that same response.
Fantastic. And that would probably be the same for a written letter too.
I don't think it hurts. Whatever form is going to be easiest and most comfortable for you, I think is a good option. But when we were leading up to the election, I think, and even before then, just talking about the best way to get a hold of them was to make a phone call because it's quick on both ends. You can say what you have to say in a few minutes and they can hear it and respond in a few minutes rather than taking the time to write a letter and then has to get there. Someone has to read it. And no way of communication is a bad way though.
Yeah. And I know it's maybe not feasible now, but as COVID restrictions ease, if you can meet with them face to face, whether they have, a coffee hour back home in the district, or if you find yourself in the capital or close enough to it, if you can make a face to face connection, usually their offices are open, and that's obviously a really powerful way to build a relationship.
And I didn't know about this until I started getting involved with Protect Our Winters, that you could really go do that. And I've since done it several times at both local and national. And just, it's great to just sit down with them and they're a person and you tell them your story and they're interested in it. And it's really a really powerful way to connect. And I think, as Kenyon alluded to, it's one of the best ways to get to know them and just have that connection. So hopefully that stuff opens up again in this next year.
Absolutely. I mean, for myself, I'm definitely not the most vocal or politically involved. I tend to, when something strikes a chord with me, I'll stick my nose in it. And that's kind of where, POW came in for me, especially at the local level. I was seeing things, even within my town that were going on. And I just started going to my board meetings and just kind of, letting them know, we do need these things. They thought that what was already established was going to be enough for people. But there's so many things that we have locally, just within your community that go on. And if you're not aware of it, if you're not following it, a lot of people don't even read the news anymore. It's, these things happen without, either your approval or your denial. So, sticking your nose in just at the local level, checking in at your town meetings and hearing what's going on. You can sit in on those and you can stand up and, have your voice heard too. The town meetings are for that. So just at your immediate local level, there's a lot that you can do. I've done the same thing at the National Forest Service. The National Forest Service here is tremendous. And, as Stephanie was talking about, logging is massive here. And we were just going through a 20-year logging plan in which they wanted to increase logging by 75%. And that would really diminish, our forests and our public land. And so, we had to speak up. And, that's when I started pushing out some of the social medias. I got in trouble on Facebook and was banned on Facebook for 48 hours because I shared it with too many groups.
Nice.
Yes.
But I tried to get it out there because it was going to affect us, this plan was massive. And so, you can engage at whatever level you're comfortable at, but like, if you don't engage, if you don't get it out there, these things are going to happen, regardless of, like, your inability to communicate. So get your voice out there so you can be heard, and make sure that they understand this is the way you see it, and, let others know this is happening so they can make their decision if they're going to communicate it or not. But I think that's a great time to start talking about POW, if you don't mind. So Stephanie, if you want to talk about POW, what is it? We've said it's protect our winters, but it's not only our winters, obviously. I mean, that's that's part of it, the environmental piece of it, which that's what brought me into actually awareness. Was I grew up in New York. And growing up in New York, we recreated outdoors on snow machines, motorcycles. We were, that was my family. We were more into the mechanical activities, but the winters were our time to play on these snowmobiles, snow machines. And I remember when I was super little, the massive snowstorms we had, the white Christmases. And then I remember as I got older, the snow just diminishing to the point where we're like, why do we even have snowmobiles? We'd had to go like further up towards Canada to find snow. So I remember, over the course of my life, over a decade or so, just the snow disappearing, going from having these foot plus snowstorms to, man, I hope we get a few inches, just to see some snow. So I saw it, and that's what started my, my realization that, we need to, be more cognizant of what we're doing to the environment. I remember in high school that, the big thing was the ozone layer. We kept talking about the ozone layer and the destruction of the ozone layer. So, that really hit me, because that's an influential part of your life in high school, is what's going on, and you're seeing these current events and what's happening and transpiring in the world. So, but protect our winters, sorry, back to the point. Protect Our Winters is such an organization that wants to make this awareness. So please, if you would expound on that.
Yeah. Protect Our Winters is a nonprofit organization, and it got its name because I think it started in 2007 by Jeremy Jones, who is a professional snowboarder and was noticing the changes in the weather patterns, the climate that was impacting his ability to get out and enjoy winter sports. And I think winter is where most of us first noticed. And speaking from a Northland person, I have a similar story, Aaron, of like growing up with snow. And then by my senior year in high school, I was a Nordic skier I competed in Nordic skiing, and we had to go to like the downhill resorts where they made snow because there wasn't enough to ski on. And it just like this incredible shift from when I was a child to when I was a senior in high school. But anyways, I think most of us who are used to 4 seasons have noticed that. And winters were a really obvious place to start. So this organization started by Jeremy Jones, and really to just bring together people who recreate in the outdoors, scientists, athletes, businesses, just bring them together to create this awareness and education, to put policies into place that are going to basically protect our winters, protect our climate. And that goes so much further than just winters. It goes to all seasons, into all areas of the globe. In the summers, and particularly out west, we get raging wildfires, and it takes over, for weeks and months sometimes of like smoke, that just kind of like settles down into the area. And then the fires destroy all of this, beautiful outdoor trails and open space that we have. And it's so dry and hot that one flame is just going to blow up. And that's become more and more just a regular occurrence, not just like, wow, there's a random wildfire. It's like, oh, there's already been 9 this season in Washington. And it's, this was last month and it's only April. And so it was started in snow sports, but really expanding to all areas and all people who like to recreate. And the goal is really to work at I guess, the national level and then down to the local levels to educate people and to give them ways to take action to impact policy, because we know that's the number one way that we're actually going to make change. So they have like this model of theory of change and how we work from the ground up. And it's really incredible, because I found as an athlete and just someone who loved the outdoors, I was doing what I could in my day-to-day life, but it just didn't seem like enough. And you just feel like this, like you're just kind of scrambling and trapped, and you're not able to actually make a big impact because you're just one person. And, you know, there's other people, there's the government that's going to actually tell you what is going to happen. And so there's this big disconnect for me. And I'm getting into a personal story again, but I think this kind of illustrates what Protector Winters really tries to do is bridge that gap and allow people to really take action and get involved, because that's ultimately what's going to make an impact. And I'm talking about athletes a lot, but it's not just athletes. It's you know, individuals at the local level, it's businesses, it's scientists, it's people who are artists, like anyone who loves, I guess I shouldn't even say who loves the earth. Anyone who lives on the earth, we should care about the earth because it's our home. And so, yeah, bringing everyone together to create change is really what Protect Our Winters is all about.
And we're like, the three of us are on the Trail Collective team. And as you said, there's all the user groups, which I really appreciate the fact that POW is recognizing trail runners as a group. I think that's something that as a collective, as a user group, we're not, typically recognized by the Forest Service. We're kind of crammed into hikers, and the hikers usually speak for us. Like when I'm here locally, we created our own trail club so that, we would have a voice to the Forest Service so that they could hear us, and know that, our user group wants to be recognized and say, this would affect us in this way, whereas hikers may have a different perspective, and sometimes it is the same, but, instead of having somebody else speak for us, now we have this group that can speak. And I think with, all of these clubs and, Trail Sisters, for instance, that, they're such a great collective of women that should be a group in and of itself to advocate, on the local levels. That's such a great, they have such great communications within themselves. If they could put that out into the community, and they do, I'm sure multiple communities do, but that would be a tremendous asset to what is trying to be achieved. So like I said, I sincerely appreciate the fact that POW has recognized that we are this user group. And so within these groups, what are these groups trying to accomplish, and how do they try to accomplish it with POW?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, and one is just build community. Like connecting, like trail runners all over the world. Like let's, these are the things that are important to us, and let's work together. And I think when you have like that sense of community, like you guys we're all out there doing the same things and like working towards the same goal, it just is like a big snowball effect, right? We want to keep doing it because it feels good, and then other people are doing it. So that's one goal. And then two is to, take action on these issues that affect us both locally and nationally, and really help trail runners or, trail users turn their passion into advocacy. And that's that's a big leap for a lot of people, but removing barriers to help people do this. And I think when you do it within your discipline, it's just more comfortable, and you see other people doing it, and you see, the reasons why, which, for example, if I were a trail runner and I was donating to Protect Our Winters, and I just, saw all of the snowboarders or the skiers, it just doesn't have that same feeling for me of like the importance, and that everyone that I recreate and, that I know is working towards this goal. But when I have like all my fellow trail runners, like, you know, all over the country, like some of my best friends and people I can compete against, people I look up to, we're all kind of like in this. It's like a really cool thing. And it's just, you know, I think we want that in different areas. We want everyone to feel connected, supported, but then also feel like they can be an advocate, because we all have voices. We all want to be heard. And like you said, Aaron, there's a difference between people who, between different disciplines. Like if you're hiking versus if you're a trail runner, like you have different values, different goals, different needs. And I think when you can bring all those people together, it elevates everyone.
Absolutely. And Canyon, you have done some wonderful videos with your brother. The most recent that comes to mind is the one you did. You were training for SCAR, I think, and running SCAR, but you incorporated Chloe into it, correct?
Yeah.
I thought that was a great combination of the two. Do you want to touch about, you know, how you guys got going on the videos and such? You guys have done some fun ones too, and I'll try to include a link to those. But go ahead and touch on that for me.
Heck yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's really all Forrest's artistry and genius. He's an incredible filmmaker. I think our first real project working together was pretty soon after I graduated from college. We had, with our fossil fuel divestment organizing, my senior year, we'd gotten 70,000 people signed on to the campaign, and we built up to this big week of action where we shut down the president's office and university buildings for a week, with a week-long sit-in, and had folks come in from all over to speak and do education and organize with us. And one of the folks who came was Coretti, who was the leader of the Pacific Climate Warriors, which is an awesome group of young organizers from over a dozen Pacific Island nations. And it was really powerful building a relationship with her and hearing about their work, fighting for really the survival of these countries where sea level rise is life or death. You know, a half degree Celsius change in temperatures can make the difference between, you know, that land being viable or not. And Coretti invited us to come to the Pacific and see some of their work. So we did in 2016 and made a short film, Matagi Malohi Strong Winds, about the incredible work that they do. And then, yeah, the more recent one that was more running focused, Rural Runner, was kind of weaving in my and Chloe's stories, so a little bit more focused on me, kind of because of election laws around what's considered, like, could be construed as support for a candidate, but kind of following Chloe in my journey, diving into rural politics up in Maine. Chloe moved back to her super conservative rural hometown in the middle of Maine, that had voted Republican by an average of 16 points over the past 3 elections. And she just dove into it, going door to door, and people really, really connected with her. And she won. She was the first Democrat elected in that district and became the youngest woman in the Maine State House. And then she was asked to run for state Senate this past cycle, and similar thing. And she unseated the Republican Senate minority leader, which was a really big deal. And she passed the first Green New Deal legislation anywhere in the country at the state level in Maine in 2019. And yeah, she's continuing to do amazing work day in and day out up there. So that was kind of kind of the focus of that film. And I think one of the last thing I'll touch on there is one of the things that has been really life-changing for me doing that work is the experience of getting out there, having face-to-face conversations with people in the community, especially in these rural communities, like where I grew up, where it's just so much different from like the echo chamber of my Facebook feed or Instagram. And, you know, it's hard. And, you know, I think a big block for people getting involved with political work is like, I don't know enough, you know, I'm not well enough educated on the issues. And what I've found is you really don't need to be to take that first step to get involved. And it can be so powerful to go door to door for a campaign and have those conversations. And so much of it is just about listening and building an authentic human connection with a person and starting to sow those seeds of trust. And so much of what we did out there was just have conversations, disagree where we disagreed, but be willing to listen and, you know, not get triggered and set off by views that are different from our own. You know, I think it's really easy to just get really angry at at things that you disagree with, and it can be really powerful just to be able to show up and listen and calmly disagree, and, you know, end that conversation with a firm handshake, looking each other in the eye. And so just the big plug to be willing to get out there and have those kinds of conversations too.
I think that's just an incredible point. And I've met Chloe. She's just like this force, this energetic force to be reckoned with. And one of the things that I really appreciated learning from her was when she was talking about, you know, going back to the rural, really Republican area that she grew up, connecting with people and finding a common ground. You can always find a common ground. Start there. Don't just be so quick to judge and disagree and say, don't you understand? This is my way, and getting frustrated. But like, you find something, like maybe you both have kids. Maybe you both like pizza, you know, like find something, create a conversation. And when you break down that barrier and you connect with someone, I think it's so much easier to talk about hard issues. And, you know, this, whether or not you're running for office or, you know, talking to a relative at a holiday and like, you know, just trying to hear their side of the story, that's a really good tactic, is to meet in the middle and just find a way to have a productive conversation, because that's the only way it's going to work. If you just tell someone like, no, you need to do this, they're just going to shut down. So being open and willing to have those hard discussions, but starting with a place where you both feel safe and comfortable, I think is important.
I totally agree. I think if you can find somebody, and like you said, Stephanie, the POW is a great way to connect with others that are like-minded. But even, you know, at your local level, if you can find somebody, you know, such as myself, that's already out there and you want to be a part of it, but just don't know where to begin, create that conversation, reach out, you know, ask, like, you know, when are you going to the next town meeting? When is the next Forest Service meeting? You know, and can I go with you? Like, that's how things start. And that's how, you know, these communities, you know, they become cohesive. You know, other ways is, you know, if you're using your, you know, as Canyon was talking about with his videos, if you're out there anyway, like, you know, take pictures and videos and show people what's going on. You know, we had wildfires here a few years back that just decimated acres upon acres of our forest just because we had so much leaf litter, and it hadn't been controlled burned or anything. So that once it lit, it just ripped through the Smokies, came into Pisgah here in Western North Carolina. We had so much destruction here. And, you know, like, I don't think people were aware just how much of, you know, not only the the flora was affected, but the fauna as well. I mean, so much was displaced. If you're out there running, like I ran up, one of the more popular peaks here in the Smokies would be LeConte. And when I ran up LeConte and just saw what happened, and just, it was a new landscape, because I could show a picture of before and after and just what happened. And so people actually get to realize, wow, like, that's, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, that's really the realization. We hear stories, but until you see it, then you're like, wow, oh my gosh. Like, and then it's, what can I do to help? What can I do to help rehabilitate? And just becoming engaged in that level as well. That's, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out to the Forest Service and, say like, this needs to be done. It's, how can I help it get done?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of this stuff is volunteer level. So, if you can get out there, and that's what I always talk about with trail maintenance, is if you can get out there and help at that level, that's tremendous as well. And even if you're just making the recognition that, this is work that needs to be done, that's tremendous. I love seeing the trash pickup now. Like, I mean, people are starting to get into, we need to clean up. The trailheads are disgusting. That's great community. Like, that's a start. Like, that, these are wonderful things that actionable things that people can do, and make the community a better place. And then they learn, new folks and meet new connections, and that's how things snowball. So,
Yes.
So I love the fact that, Canyon, you're putting that, that out there, and you don't have to be a professional YouTuber, to get a video out there. It's just so simple to create a channel and just kind of put that stuff out there. But that's how it starts. Really simple. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that said, Stephanie, what are some of the needs that POW has?
Whew. I mean, so many needs, but I think spreading awareness, and whether that's through campaigns that we're doing on social media, through fundraising, I think that's one of the big things that is a need to, like, get these bigger pieces rolling, and from an individual level, what we can really do. And sometimes it seems silly to be posting campaigns on social media. It's like, this is the exact opposite of what I want to do. Like, like getting my hands dirty and like doing some work outside. But it's like, when you understand the theory of change and how things need to happen, those things matter. And just like what you were saying, like Canyon putting his videos out there, if I share a photo of something, it's going to reach people, and probably people in my community who may not be aware of these issues. Like, I'm just thinking, I took a little video of myself biking yesterday, on one of my favorite roads, and it was actually closed to traffic because there was a red flag warning, which means that it's super windy and really highly likely for a wildfire. And so, like, cars weren't even allowed to drive through there. And just posting that video and maybe like making people aware, like, in this area, this is already happening. And that just motivates people to start in their local communities. And once you do that, you get more interested and educated in, like, the next step and the next step. So I think, long story short, POW just needs people to one, be interested and be educated in what's going on locally and nationally, and then two, find some way to promote or participate in a campaign or a fundraiser, because that's going to directly impact their ability to work on these bigger pieces. Like, we're like the little Legos building up. Each person, each effort is like building up this big, I shouldn't say wall, because we hear the word wall and we're like, castle. We're building a big castle out of Legos. And all of those little pieces are so important. Even though you might not think they are, they all add up. So POW needs people to really just stand up for what they're passionate about, and don't be afraid. And whatever means that is, whether it be calling, your local representative, whether it be doing trail work in your community and just taking your friend to the town hall when you go, or just saying, like, hey, did you know, like, this is going on right now. We have a red flag warning. That's pretty crazy, huh? Like, all of those steps are steps that are necessary. So there's nothing too small.
That's excellent. And how can they engage with POW? Obviously, I'll put the website in the show notes, but what are some ways in which they can get involved, engage on social media?
Yeah, I mean, following on social media is good. The number one thing is probably to subscribe to the newsletter, because they put out a regular newsletter about things that are going on. On Fridays, they have this climate dispatch of like current climate news that's coming out, or policy or something, some things like that. And then also upcoming campaigns and ways to get involved. We just did a huge one called Crush It for Climate, and that was super successful, getting people to just basically go out and do what they love, and like do it in a fashion where they were promoting like Protect Our Winters and climate. And there are so many opportunities like that. So subscribe to the newsletter is probably a really great place to start.
Right. Great. And I even saw them, they had the Strava challenge, right?
Yeah. So connecting with ways that are just really easy for runners or trail enthusiasts to just naturally get involved. You don't have to go above, like out of your way, but it's just like, yeah, click the button, sign up for the Strava challenge, and then you're in. So it shouldn't be, it's not like things that take a lot of time or effort, but those actions really go a long ways.
Awesome. Anything, I mean, I'm sure there's a billion more things we could obviously talk about, but anything we would be remiss to leave out right now? Any last touch points you guys want to have?
I mean, like you said, we could talk about this forever, but I just think it's really great. Thank you for the opportunity for us to share today. And I think this is a big step of like, maybe reaching some people who weren't necessarily aware of ways they could bridge that gap. And I think we covered the biggest parts, and just, knowing that we can't take these outdoor spaces for granted, and we need to actually speak up and with our actions to protect them, and especially for not just our generation, but the generations to come. Any final words of wisdom, Canyon?
Heck yeah. I love what Stephanie said. And I think I circle back to just, I don't have all the answers. I might not even have any. None of us have it all figured out. We're kind of muddling through, figuring out how to make a difference, and how to stand up to the just tremendous power of the fossil fuel industry and these huge corporations that only see dollar signs. And so I think the big message for me is just, you don't have to have it all figured out to be involved. A great message the POW pushes is just, embrace being the imperfect advocate. Just get involved where you can, start where you are. It's taking that first step that's so important, and then you're moving, and things come easy from there, and you flow on down the trail and meet awesome people along the way, and hopefully we get somewhere great.
Awesome. And if folks want to connect with you guys, what's the best way for them to do so?
I'm probably most active on Instagram, Stephanie Marie Howe. You can also email me, stephanie@protectourwinters.org. I post pretty regularly, and happy to answer any emails. If anyone wants to get more involved, please send me an email. I'm happy to do what I can, point you in the right direction. We've got resources for race directors, for people who want to create these races that are more, friendly for the climate, and doing things that are going to push us in the right direction, and resources for people new to advocacy. And I've got things that I can help direct you. So please reach out.
Yes. Same. Definitely feel free to email canyonwoodward@gmail.com. Or Canyon Woodward on Instagram. I'm notoriously bad at responding to emails, but if you email me, I promise I'll do my best.
Well, I really want to thank you both for your time and for sharing all this, and for all the work that you obviously do for this world. Thank you, guys.
Likewise, Aaron. Thank you. done so much for the running community and the greater community at large in North Carolina. So thanks a ton. It's been so fun to connect with you both. Stephanie, you are such a rock star leading the POW Trail Squad. This has been really fun.
Thank you both. Yeah, this is a good conversation, and I really appreciate having the opportunity.
Well, as always, thank you, Stephanie and Canyon, for the conversation, for the time, for everything that you do outside of your everyday jobs, and for just having this conversation. I hope just as we were, that you can be open-minded and perhaps take some of these ideas or suggestions and put them to use. It's we can do quite actionable things without really doing too much. So, if it's just reaching out to your state representative, as Stephanie and Canyon talked about, making that phone call, or just attending the local town meeting. Go to your local town hall and attend the meeting and see what's going on and make sure things are going the way you want them to go. Things don't change unless we begin to make sure that we are part of that actionable change. So thank you to both of you. On to, other things that are going on. We have been working on Hellbender. Many, have reached out. We are working on the permitting. A lot of stuff, obviously goes into that with all the various entities that we have to, provide applications to. We are shooting for the beginning of May. That is our goal for 2022. So, just under a year from now, we're shooting for that first weekend. That's our goal. Whether the various entities are good with that date, that's the last remaining piece. So our applications are being filed, permits being filed. So stay tuned for that. And in other news with Hellbender, we thought that the trail out of Camp Greer was going to be ready, but the reality is, it's going to require a whole lot of money, $75,000. We're going to have to raise $75,000. Not the Run 828 Foundation, the G5 Trail Collective, that's really been at the forefront of this, is going to try to raise money, and get grants and such to make this happen. So, what I am proposing is that we help generate those funds and kind of donate to that cause, because obviously we want to use that trail and make that trail happen and make it a reality. So we're going to, obviously raise money through Hellbender and see what other fundraising possibilities we can do to help generate some funds and maybe donate to that cause and make that happen. So you can check out G5. I'm going to put their stuff in the show notes. I have in the past, and they have a great website, and they're so active. They're doing trail work every week, so it's great to hear and see. So those are the latest updates on Hellbender. I don't know quite when registration will open. I'm suspecting late this year we will open registration, but that's to come. So stay tuned. Newsletter. I apologize. I have not gotten the newsletter out. I have not really had a moment to breathe. It's just been super busy lately. Aside from, finishing up the track season here, we've got this week and next, and track will be over. And then I think I can breathe a little bit again. But, besides that, it's just been hectic. So I have not had a chance to work on the newsletter. So, apologies to all of you. I know, I said I would get that out. But it is forthcoming. Whether I combine May and June, or if I get a May out and a June out, we'll see. But I appreciate your patience. So sorry about that. And other exciting news, I had forgotten that I dropped my name into the Old Dominion. Old Dominion is one of the 4 oldest 100 milers in the United States that is still existing, and it's part of the Grand Slam. So I the other night I received an email saying that I had been invited to register. They're only taking 100 runners this year. This is one that's kind of been on my bucket list to do. I looked at my wife. You have a small window to decide because obviously, they have to move on the wait list. So I looked over at my wife and said, do I press the green button or the red decline button? And, she knew I really wanted to run this one. So she said, press green. So 3 weeks, 3 weeks, first weekend in June, this race takes place. I'm kind of just looking at it as going out for a finish. If I'm competitive, that would be kind of a secondary or even tertiary goal to its completion. It's more for the experience on this one, I'll be honest. Of course, I always want to be competitive, but coming off of Umstead, I did take some time off and just been really going pretty easy for the most part. Obviously I did do Art Loeb, so I've had some volume, and Art Loeb being 30 miles with 8,000 to 9,000 feet of vertical gain. Not that Old Dominions has anywhere near that, but to feel as good as I did on that run, it shows me that I'm still in good aerobic condition. So I feel like I can handle this well. The course is a lot of kind of gravel roads, and it's really, they call it cross country. So I'm really excited to check this course out. So 3 weeks away. That's coming up, which is awesome. I was kind of bummed following Hard Rock has an email listserv, and somebody asked about has the wait list moved at all, and it has not. And them having taken a number of never run people off of the wait list to bring them into the fold, they are still waiting for a number to drop out so that they have the numbers that they need. Right now, I think they're a little bit higher than what they're supposed to have for their permit. So, the wait list has not moved because of that. So it doesn't look like Hard Rock will be in my future for this year. So, the goal this fall will be to complete Grindstone 100 and get another Hard Rock qualifier. So, but that's where the world of my running is. It's all good. And my son, his meet last week got canceled, the Thursday meet that I had talked about, so he did not get his shot at the mile. As I sit here and record this, the day before its release on May 12th, we are getting rain again, so I don't think his meet today will happen. It's rescheduled for next Friday, or this Friday, because we are in our championship season already. My hopes for him, he's running well. He's not in pain. And that's great. So I hope he smashes the 5-minute barrier. Super cool. But anyhow, that's where Keegan's at. Other than that, life here is going well. I really, again, appreciate your time. I appreciate your listening, and I appreciate, again, your open-mindedness to listen to this conversation. And once again, thank you to Stephanie and Canyon for their contributions to this. We've got a number of podcasts that I'm recording this week that will be coming up. I am recording with my good friend Scott Sosha, owner of FooterX, the running store I used to co-own with him, and my friend Joe Quinlan. We'll be talking about footwear and podorthics. They fabricate orthotics, but they are very into natural movement and allowing the foot to function naturally. So it should be an interesting conversation. Also recording with a good friend and physical therapist, Miriam Saloom. She and I are going to be talking about the shins and all the maladies that can happen with the shins, and what can be done. Also going to have my follow-up conversation with Natalie Daniels. She finished the Brute Challenge, and we had talked previously. You can go back and listen to her episode. She had completed the Georgia Loop, gosh, I'm trying to remember what she had completed at that time. Masson Nutton, and I think, what was the other one she had? She had completed 3 at the time, but she has since completed the other 2, which was Pitchell and gosh, since I don't remember the other one, we'll have to, I'll have to do my my research again. But we will be discussing her completion, and then she tried to do the out and back on Art Loeb, but it didn't sound like her body was cooperating. So we'll talk about that as well. So stay tuned for those conversations. Those episodes will be coming out in the future. And once again, thank you all so much for everything you guys do. I'll be leaving a ton of show notes today, so check those out with all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. And thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping me keep this going, and for all of you that have liked and subscribed and shared, that have reached out and asked questions. I like the engagement, so I appreciate you all. And until next time, keep running, my friends.
Wrote this song while crewing Aaron on a 100-mile foot race through the trails in the rain and mud. How about that? Miles to go. 100 miles to go. Don't ask me why I do it, I don't know. Miles by foot. 100 miles by foot. Don't ask me why I do it, I can't stay put. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Don't ask me why